Now, civil society groups and stakeholders have made a formal request for government to institute an aggressive financing scheme for the agricultural sector. This is to help farmers and exporters of agricultural produce get some soft credit facilities to support the quest to increase yield. This came up at the first meeting by the Ministry of Finance to receive input from stakeholders into the 2020 budget and economic policy. Here's Ebenezer Sabute's report read to you.
As government begins taking input into the economic policy for the next year, issues of agricultural investment, meeting revenue targets and expenditure cuts are dominating discussions. Some of the agencies that have made submissions to the government so far includes Imani Africa, Peasant Farmers Association, the Federation of Ghanaian Exporters, among others. And they are making a strong case for government to consider an agricultural financing scheme that will help add value to farm products for exports.
Briefly, what I think that should reflect in this budget is adding value to agricultural exports. Because over the years, I think Ghana has been exporting more of agricultural produce in its raw form. A clear example is our cocoa sector. We export just our cocoa beans, most of them, like about 80% of our cocoa beans are exported. So I think that government can come up with a strategy whereby we add value to our cocoa beans and export it.
To agri-financing, because currently it's very difficult for the exporters or even the farmers to get funds from the banking sector as in the form of loans, because they say the sector is too risky to lend to them, and then the interest rates are way too high for them, and so the farmers do not go there. So in the area of agri-financing, yes, we will need a budget to speak to that, and then financing technologies to help in value addition as well.
Other key issues discussed during the meeting include the communication service tax, which was increased by 50% in the budget review, and the luxury vehicle tax. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwarteng has advised that though the luxury vehicle tax has been withdrawn, defaulters are expected to pay.
The law that repealed the policy said if you are in default, if you are supposed to have paid before the law was repealed and you did not pay, you are required to go and pay. In the same way that if you did pay after repealing the law, it does not mean you are entitled to a refund. And I think it is important we do that in order to communicate that when laws are made, they are made to be obeyed. If they are bad laws, we will take them through processes to ensure we improve or repeal them. But whilst they have not been repealed, that they are applicable. And if you owe, because as a result of the application of a law, at the time it hadn't been repealed, then you would need to go and pay.
The budget statement for the year 2020 is expected to be presented to Parliament in November this year.
Now, real estate developer and executive chairman of JL Holdings, Dr. James Lindsay, fears most Ghanaians may not be able to benefit from government's affordable housing project because of their income levels. He addressed the media as a key speaker at the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana evening with a personality. Bismarck Awusa has more.
Cut the sword for the commencement of work on some 200,000 housing units, estimated at $5 billion. That is in a bid to bridge the housing deficit, which currently stands at about 2.5 million housing units. According to Executive Chairman of JL Holdings, Dr. James Lindsay, about 80% of Ghanaians, especially those in the low and middle income brackets, cannot afford the housing projects government is rolling out.
I'm happy with the intervention of government. I support government all the way. I'm excited that they are thinking in that direction. But if you are building 100,000 homes for $5 billion US, simple math without putting in interest and cost of land would tell me that your 2- and 3-bedroom homes is going to cost minimum $50,000. And as per the analysis that we've done, straight away it's not affordable, because affordable is supposed to be something below $20,000 US.
Dr. Ollins Lindsay has, however, outlined some solutions to tackle the increasing housing deficit.
Because the high interest rate, dollar instability, high land cost, high cost of material. But the good news is that the current government is committed to making the mortgage regime work in real estate and in housing industry. They are also trying to make it very vibrant. Thus, it sets the tone for consensus building and innovative approaches, especially towards the use of local materials in the housing delivery and government housing delivery aspect, and because government is helping. But we need to do more. I've given you the analysis on our so-called affordable houses that is going to be built, 100,000 units. I've given you that analysis.
The CIMG evening with a personality brought together marketing practitioners to discuss price and affordability issues in the real estate sector. Kojo Mata is the national president of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana.
We as individual savers should develop the habit of saving into or making long-term savings so that the banks will be able to lend to the real estate developers as well as people who want to take mortgage, so that the tenor or the duration of the repayment will be longer, and then the repayment amounts will be less stressful on the borrower.
Bismarck Ausa, Joy Business.
Now, a list cataloging companies and individuals indebted to Group Indum's bank has been challenged by JoyNews Investment Limited. Solicitors for the investment company letter addressed to the president and chairman of Group Indum, Dr. Papa Kwesi Indum, said their client is, quote, no longer indebted to the bank. The company backed its claim with clearance letters from the GN Bank, which indicate it is no longer indebted to it. The list, which was published by multiple media outlets, is the latest move by Dr. Indum as part of a court process to secure investment funds and pay aggrieved customers their locked-up investments. Aside from JoyNews Investment Limited labeling their inclusion in the list as perpetuating falsehood, it has called on the embattled businessman to withdraw the publication and also apologize to them. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has charged the receiver to go in strong in retrieving the good assets and funds invested in wrong ventures. He said this after leadership of the Baptist Convention asked for clarity over speculations that customers will not receive all their locked-up deposits. The Finance Minister revealed government has so far spent 14 billion Ghana cedis even before the receiver completes the exercise and pays disgruntled depositors. Mr. Ofori-Atta was addressing the 56th annual session of the Ghana Baptist Convention in the Ashanti region. Prince Apia has more in this report.
Session of the Ghana Baptist Convention held in Ejra in the Ashanti region, the current cleanup in the banking sector was a major concern that was discussed. Executive President of the Ghana Baptist Convention, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfi, wants government to clear conflicting reports that depositors will not get their deposits in full.
However, we are hearing conflicting reports that seems to suggest there is no 100% guarantee that depositors of savings and loans companies will get their monies back. Some people are also saying that monies will not be paid in bulk, but it will be spread over a period of 3 years. We would like the government and Bank of Ghana to clarify the position so that genuine depositors with these companies will know their true position so that they can plan accordingly. We would like to encourage the government to consider facilitating early payment of these deposits and investment to ease the burden of families and individuals and restore confidence in the banking sector.
Meanwhile, the finance minister, who was a guest speaker, Ken Ofori-Atta, says government will not relent on their efforts to retrieve the locked up money.
And all of us made those mistakes. So the first cut was then to say, Why don't we make sure that 10,000 cedis there, Obia Benyabi, at least if you have that money in that account. And then you have the receiver. The receiver then goes to see whether he can collect the money that the banks place in wrong places or bought houses or whatever. And then after you have received that is before we can distribute that resource. But even in that instance, we are having to spend some 14 billion cedis. You know, we talk about free SHS and it's like 2 billion cedis a year. We have spent 14 billion cedis to be able to give people's monies back to them and make sure that our banking crisis, you know, was contained.
He says the receiver will do a good job to pay the disgruntled customers.
So yes, the expectation is that the receivers will move strongly to recover these so that we can then begin to give them back to the bigger depositors.
Meanwhile, Kenofurata also admonished members of the gathering to be tax compliant.
The central bank must be fair in its dealings with all industry players within the financial sector. That's coming from founder of defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amoabeng. Speaking on some developments within the financial space, Mr. Amoabeng said this is one of the measures to help bring back the required confidence that has eluded the sector in recent times.
The central bank is trying set up new limits to make sure that at least they are quite robust and they won't go down easily, right from the rural banks to community banks to savings and loans. If they will go by it and not favor other people, but make sure that everyone is really investigated and they have what it takes and they qualify and they go by the regulatory requirements and they can enforce it, then there will be the confidence, but it will take a bit of time. Maybe in about a couple of years' time, we should find that these companies are doing well and people trust them. But it will take a bit of time because the industry has been hurt badly. And unfortunately, a lot of people have lost money, so I don't know how they're going to bounce back on that. Take, for example, government saying that you have minimum capital of 400 million to be a bank. Some banks were excused. They don't have the 400 million, they've been given time. Some banks merged, they still don't have the money, but they're still around. Some banks were rescued, but the government is going to find money through GAT to fund them to meet the 400. Some banks got the 400. Too much. It's haphazard and it's too much subjectivity. You don't run institutions like that. Put processes in place, and as we say in the army, Nanga to Nanga don't qualify. Nanga to Nanga qualifies. And it's easy. But the way the government is doing, obviously, personal interest, favoritism, and that's not the way to run an institution.
Now, the debate on the recently issued government 20-year bond rages on the business edition of PM Express last night on JoyNews. The debate was taken a notch higher as financial experts gave some education on if indeed this bond was a flop or not. Here is a wrap of key points on the show in this report by Philip Namfuri.
Government's recent 20-year bond issue has been described as a flop, as it was able to raise 162 million Ghana cedis out of the 450 million. The Ministry of Finance, however, rejected these claims, describing it as shelf offering. This means the bond is expected to be issued over a period and not the whole 450 million at a go. Acting Director of Financial Sector Division at the Ministry of Finance, Samson Aklego, on the PM Express explains further.
When you go to borrow, and you've even raised excess, and you have announced to the market that it is a shelf offering, what you do is that with your advisors is that they will guide you. That look, you are issuing a new instrument, you have a yield curve, you have to price it very well. Understand? So we have given them a guidance as to what we are expecting. They've gone to the market, and the market is not. The market says that based on your guidance, this is how much the book runners were able to generate. You cannot describe that as like maybe a flop. It's very sensational. Because
the amount raised attracted a rate of 20.2%. Some financial experts have described this as high. Economist Professor Bob Wing shares his thoughts.
If our inflation is 9.4%, the last figure, and we are hopeful that the medium-term inflation target of 8% with a symmetrical rate of 2% is achievable, then doing 20% over 20-year horizon may seem to be too high then, even though it's lower than what we did 4 years ago, what we did 5 years ago, where we were doing 3-year bond, 5-year bond at 25%, 26%. It's lower than that. But then when you compare that against maybe our medium-term target that we all think it is right, we are exiting IMF, and then we have exited IMF. We are saying that the fundamentals are in shape and all of that. Inflation is.
But one of the government's advisors on raising bonds from the financial markets, Fidelity Bank, believes getting a price on such long-term bonds is really a case of demand and supply. Samuel Edu is Deputy Managing Director of Fidelity Bank.
So, for instance, the investors would be, say, a bank, a pension fund. The pension fund would want to ensure they achieve certain benchmark returns. A bank has the option of either doing a loan to a customer, a retail customer, a corporate customer, or giving the money to government. So there has to be a balance in the mind of each investor. At what level do I feel happy enough to part with my money? So there's always a demand-supply situation. What tends to disrupt the equilibrium is if there's either too much money looking for investments or there's too much borrowing requirements by government.
You're watching Business Live on JoyNews. MTN Ghana is urging more investments in the Ghanaian gaming industry in order to unearth the huge revenue potential of the industry. Speaking at the maiden MTN Ghana Gaming Conference, Executive Marketing Officer for the telecoms firm, Noel Gamson, noted that supporting the industry will go a long way to generate revenue and create jobs for the youth. Sheila Tamaklo reports.
According to Newzoo's Global Games Market report, the video games market generated about $137 billion in 2018, with mobile gaming being the main revenue driver. But despite the potential of the industry, Ghana's gaming industry is yet to harness the opportunities from the market. It's this reason gamers, developers, consultants and several other stakeholders gathered at the MTN Gaming Conference to network and discuss ways of improving the industry for the nation's development. Speaking at the event, Executive Marketing Officer for MTN Ghana, Noel Gamson, noted developing the industry will create jobs for the youth.
The video gaming industry is an industry that employs a significant number of people. According to the latest reports by Newzoo, gaming generated more than 100 billion euros worldwide in 2018. In an article that cites the Newzoo report, CNBC points out that this represents an increase of more than 13% compared to the previous year. Ghana can take a cue from this to reduce the percentage of unemployed in our economy, and as well as improving the gaming industry as well.
Some games and graphic developers noted the industry needs more support to harness its full potential.
The government is making strategic investments into manufacturing and other industrialization projects, but there are low-hanging fruits like creative content, where the government can strategically invest within different value chains, and that value chain comes together holistically and you produce such stuff like the gaming content, which has the potential of generating a lot of revenue.
So obviously tax holidays are something that would be really good. Also, government setting up programs to fund game studios like this, or any indie game studios that are starting up, would obviously go a long way to encouraging people to get in more, because they know that they are not on their own once they start. Also, just education.
Senior Manager for Products and Services for MTN Ghana noted MTN will also support game developers to market their products with support of the mobile money platform.
We've noticed that a lot of people within this country play games, but when it comes to certain levels of the gaming where they can make payments, there's a barrier there. And just last year, we've broken that barrier by enabling people to be able to pay using their mobile money on Google Play Store. And so it's also one of our vision to bring together these guys within the ecosystem and educate them and tell them that there are opportunities that are available, and it's now easier for people to buy their games if they put it on a Play Store or whichever store that they want to place those games.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
Speak of gaming, golf has largely been associated with the elite, successful and top business executives. Well, have you ever wondered the correlation between golf and the business world? Well, some top businessmen and golfers, including founder of defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, and Managing Director of Cal Bank, Frank Edu Jr., have been sharing their experience at the GEC Open Aspire 2019, a platform for them to discuss the synergies between golf and business.
Regarding the perception that golf is a sport for the elite, some business executives at the GEC Aspire 2019 maintain that golf is for everyone. According to them, the expensive part of golfing is the time spent which they believe is available to all. Retired Captain Prince Kofi Amoabeng, founder of defunct UT Bank, revealed that golfing helped him stay strong in 2017 when his bank collapsed.
I devoted more time to golf, and you'll be surprised that when I'm asleep or when I cannot sleep, the company that is gone, I'm thinking about the bad shots I played and how I could have played them better. So golf took a lot of the stress and bad moments and away from me, and I had a good sleep, and I didn't have to really stress in terms of what I was losing.
For Managing Director of Cal Bank, Frank Edu Jr., golfing has not only given him the chance to meet new people, but also strike big business deals.
You cannot be a good golfer if you are not disciplined. And as Kofi said, golf will show you up, to show up your character and personality.
However, in all the talk about the importance of golfing to the business world, it was evident that more efforts will be needed to grow the sport. Mr. Frank Edu Jr. therefore called on government to invest more in the creation of recreational facilities to whip up interest.
I think that successive governments in this country have been overwhelmed by the need to provide public services, infrastructure, etc., beyond which they are unable to find a budget for, in their minds, what they would probably think would be less important requirements for the people. How are they going to find money to do that? I don't know. But I know that for planning, for good city planning, you need to have these spaces. Marine Drive is coming up. Let's say I haven't seen the master plan. Let's hope there will be some parks in there because the land is big enough. If there are other areas that we could create the parks. But I guess it's all about revenue mobilization and having the excess revenue and resources to be able to do some of these beyond being aesthetic, very important things.
Other executives present at the engagement were Ben Bath of Axera Advisor, Ofori Boatinho Strategic Security Systems International Limited, and businessman Kofi Eje. For Joy Business, Karen Dudu.
Up next on Business Live, a summary of news from here in Ghana and around the world.
The GNA reports the setting up and laying of pipelines to power the relocated car power ship from Tema to the Sekondi Naval Base is about 85% complete. Ghana Gas Company Limited will, as a result, push its first gas from the Triable Gas Processing Plant to the power ship in October this year. Ernest Owusu-Bempah, head of communication at Ghana Gas, made this known when officials of the company visited the relocated car power ship at the Sekondi Naval Base to ascertain the progress of work. Chief Executive Officer of GEPA, Ifua Asare, has been appointed a member of the board of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, Ghana. The forum is aimed at supporting entrepreneurs in starting up, support SMEs as they scale up their businesses, and create jobs worldwide every year. The construction of a fertilizer production factory under the One District One factory has commenced in Somenya in the Ilokrobo municipality to process both fecal and biodegradable waste. The construction of the factory is part of the Creating and Capturing Value CAPVAL project launched in 2015 by the International Water Management Institute and Jacora Ventures Limited with support from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. Nigeria can easily boost its oil production next year to at least 2.5 million barrels a day, according to the newly appointed head of the state oil company. Fixing damaged pipelines will allow the nation to retain capacity that's stranded across the Niger Delta, according to Mele Kyari, who took charge of Nigerian National Petroleum Company in July. Kenya's inflation rate fell to the lowest in 5 months August as food price growth cooled. Consumer inflation in East Africa's biggest economy slowed to 5% from 6.3% in July, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics said Friday in an email statement. Prices fell 0.9% in the month.
That's Business Live tonight. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We've got the latest stories from over there, including government to review the benchmark value in next year's budget. You want to read all about that. Plus, all our bulletins, just in case you missed out on any of them. The videos are uploaded on the website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Powell. Thanks for watching. We are back same time next week.